What is going on, you guys? This is DerekJ Speaks, and we are talking about WWE Money in the Bank 2024 live from the Scotiabank Arena in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. A show that I thought, top to bottom, was a pretty good show. And apparently, this might be a controversial opinion, depending on where you fall in line in terms of the outcomes of some of the matches on this show. But top to bottom, start to finish, I enjoyed this show. I thought there was a lot of great things that came out of this show. A very newsworthy show, in fact, with a lot of big things coming out of this, leading into future events like SummerSlam and even beyond SummerSlam with certain announcements on this show. But of course, we will start things off talking about what ended the show, which was the six-man tag team match where the Bloodline, represented by the new tribal chief, Solo Sikoa, teamed up with Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga to take on Randy Orton, Kevin Owens, and the WWE Champion, Cody Rhodes, in what turned out to be a very wild, chaotic brawl to end the show. There was a lot of action, too much to even keep track of every single thing that happened, but a lot of greatness from these six guys in this match. In particular, Jacob Fatu, who this was his WWE in-ring debut in this match, and I thought he showed out very well. He had great interactions with multiple people in this match, including Randy Orton, and he played a heavy role in the outcome of the match. After a few ref bumps to the same referee, that poor guy, he went through hell in this match. But we had some weapons, we had different things on the announce table. I believe Kevin Owens hit a frog splash on Fatu through the announce table at one point. A lot of craziness going on. But in the end, after damn near everyone has been wiped out and been taken out, it came down to seemingly Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa. And Cody had Solo in position to hit him with the trifecta of crossroads that he once upon a time hit on Roman Reigns to put him away. As he laid him out with the two and he was going for that third one, Jacob Fatu came in and put a stop to that. He laid out Cody, and then he held him up and even held his neck and throat in position for Solo to come in and hit him with the spike, and Solo pinned the WWE Champion Cody Rhodes to win this match for the Bloodline. They stand tall. Solo has the Ulafala placed around his neck. He is the tribal chief, and he and the Bloodline asserted their dominance over three of the top baby faces, not only on SmackDown, but in the entire company. And of course, the biggest news coming out of this particular match with this outcome is that Solo Sikoa pinned Cody Rhodes. And the obvious direction here is that we are getting, and this has been reported on by numerous online people, including Dave Meltzer, who I think was the first one not too long ago to report it. I think it was about a month or so ago that he first reported it, that we are going to get a SummerSlam main event of Cody Rhodes and Solo Sikoa. For me personally, not the most exciting match to hear, but given the story and the direction they're heading in with this Bloodline story, it does fit and it does make sense. And knowing that going into this pay-per-view, to me it made sense for not only the Bloodline to win, but for Solo himself to pin Cody Rhodes to set the match up. Very similar to last year at Money in the Bank, where we had Bloodline Civil War with the Usos, Roman, and Solo Sikoa. And in that match, Jey Uso pinned Roman Reigns, and that set the gears in motion for them to have a championship match at SummerSlam. So I felt like this was going to be a similar situation, and effectively it is. So now, all systems go, I believe. It hasn't been announced yet, of course, but I'm fairly certain we're getting Solo and Cody at SummerSlam, where Cody will retain. I do not see Solo winning the championship. Similar to Jey pinning Roman last year, that was the moment but it also gave away the finish to the SummerSlam match in that Jay was not going to beat Roman, which he did not. Very similar situation here. Solo got the visual pin on Cody on this show because he ain't getting it at SummerSlam. And Cody Rhodes will retain. He will remain champion. But the big story will be after this match, because I can tolerate this match being the main event of SummerSlam if and only if we get the big moment where Paul Heyman, who got a vicious beatdown at the hands of the Bloodline a few weeks ago on TV, he comes out and then they hit the music, crowd erupts, and out comes Roman Reigns to come face to face with Solo Sikoa, and this Bloodline story elevates to a whole nother level. Because once Roman comes back, the roof is going to explode. These fans, these crowds, everywhere they go are chanting, "We want Roman." They are ready to see Roman Reigns return, and I'm pretty sure it's coming at SummerSlam, and I'm pretty sure it's coming at the end of that main event. He could come out and cost Solo the match and give Cody the inadvertent assist in retaining his championship, but I feel like it might happen after Cody already beats Solo. But it's fairly certain that that's where this is leading. Beyond that, you go into full fantasy booking as far as this Bloodline story. There's so many different directions and pathways they can go down. Roman and Solo is an obvious matchup to do at some point. Roman versus Jacob Fatu, for me personally, would be a dream match, or at least a match I'd be very excited to see. We still don't know where The Rock stands in all this, the final boss. We don't know what role he will have yet. We don't know for sure if they're going to do Rock and Roman at WrestleMania next year. Are they going to do Rock and Cody and then hold off on Rock and Roman for a little bit longer? We don't know. So it's all up in the air, but at least in the immediate future, Cody Solo in the main event of SummerSlam, and that will lead to a Roman Reigns return at the end of that event. So for me, it is now a countdown to the return of Roman Reigns. So that was the big show closing thing on this show, but that was not, to me, the biggest event that took place on this show. That goes to everything surrounding the World Heavyweight Championship, including the men's Money in the Bank ladder match that opened the show. We had Jey Uso in there. We had Chad Gable in there. We had Andrade. We had Carmelo Hayes. We had LA Knight. And of course, we had Drew McIntyre. This match was great. It was a great ladder match. It was a strong way to open the show. These guys were killing each other out there. Gable was an absolute beast. Andrade, who hasn't done a whole lot since coming back to WWE, he got a chance to shine in that match. LA Knight and Jey Uso were easily the two most over guys in that entire match, and everyone was just trolling Drew McIntyre with CM Punk chants, but clearly it didn't stop him from winning. Heading into this match, the obvious outcome was the outcome that they went with, which was Drew McIntyre winning the briefcase. The same Drew McIntyre who promised he would win Money in the Bank and he would cash in on this same night and win the World Heavyweight Championship, which immediately set up an outcome that everyone was expecting, which was Drew getting screwed over once again by CM Punk. And well, let's go ahead and fast forward to the World Heavyweight Championship match on this show between Damian Priest and Seth Rollins, a match that had some big, heavy stipulations attached to it, where if Seth lost, he wouldn't get another shot at the title so long as Damian Priest is still champion, and had Damian Priest lost, he would be forced to leave the Judgment Day. Now, I had my own thoughts and theories and predictions heading into this match. None of it came to fruition. They went with the most obvious, predictable outcome, which still played out fairly well, at least with the crowd. The crowd was hot for the entire thing, although the setup for it, not exactly great. The match itself between Priest and Rollins was pretty good. To me, you could tell that Rollins is shaking off a little ring rust, so there were some slow points to the match, but it wasn't anything terrible. It just wasn't anything overly exciting for me personally. But everyone was just waiting to get to a certain outcome here. And we got to it, but unfortunately, it was a very clunky way of getting to it. We had a spot where Seth hit the superplex, and we've seen him do this. He hits the superplex, and he goes for the Falcon Arrow, and it's usually a near fall. In this case, he hits Priest with a superplex. He's going for the Falcon Arrow, but then there's a back and forth between him and Priest where it gets countered between the two of them. They go back and forth for a little bit until finally Seth does hit Priest with the Falcon Arrow. And he goes for the cover, and the referee counts 1, he counts 2, and then he does not count 3. He holds up the count. Unfortunately, Priest did not get his shoulder up, and it was painfully obvious that he did not get his shoulder up. So now the fans in the crowd are confused. Corey Graves and Michael Cole on commentary are confused. Seth Rollins is visibly confused, probably partially in character and also real life because it looked horrible. Now, not 5 seconds later, they hit Drew McIntyre's music, and out comes McIntyre to cash in Money in the Bank. Now, I don't know if the idea here was that Priest was supposed to kick out, and then they play McIntyre's music. I don't know if the idea was supposed to be as Seth goes for the cover, that's when they hit McIntyre's music, so that is what the referee was waiting for because he was not supposed to even get that far into the cover in the count itself, and they were going to hit the music, and out comes Drew McIntyre. I don't know, and we may never find out. This is information that we may never ever know. All we do know is what played out on TV, and what played out on TV looked horrible, and it almost ruined this segment here. Almost. But even still, Drew McIntyre, he did come out. He cashed in Money in the Bank. They made it official. Samantha Irvin was doing the introductions while the commentators were trying to talk. She was still talking, so I thought that was pretty funny too. But McIntyre, he's in the match. It is now a triple threat match, which means it's no disqualification. McIntyre lays out Rollins with the Claymore kick. McIntyre is on his way to winning this match until he gets attacked, to the surprise of no one, by CM Punk. Elbow and arm all taped up. Punk comes out there. He attacks Drew McIntyre. He brings him all the way over by the timekeeper's area. He's bashing him in the back with a steel chair. He starts choking him with some wires from like the cameras and the other cable cords around ringside. He's choking him. You know, Daniel Bryan once upon a time got fired for doing that. So I thought that was very interesting to see Punk do that here. But he's bashing him in the back with the steel chairs. He's beating him down. And as he's about to continue using the chair, he stops himself and he picks up the World Heavyweight Championship title, which was placed on a pedestal. He takes it and he bashes McIntyre in the face with it. And then as Priest comes back to, he lays out McIntyre with the South of Heaven, and for the third time this year, Damian Priest pins Drew McIntyre to retain the World Heavyweight Championship thanks to CM Punk. It happened at WrestleMania. Punk beats down McIntyre after he just won the title. Priest cashes in Money in the Bank. South of Heaven, new world champion. Happened at Clash at the Castle. Punk comes out impersonating a referee. Low blows McIntyre. South of Heaven, pinned, Priest is champion. And now once again, same situation, same thing here. 3 times now, CM Punk has cost Drew McIntyre the World Heavyweight Championship. We're all in the clear heading into SummerSlam. The obvious big blood feud for that show. One of the big highly promoted main events. I would say you could argue that it is the main event on the show. It won't close the show, but you could argue that the big match, because they're not going to announce Roman Reigns is going to return in advance, even though you kind of know that's where that's leading. The big marquee match, the big selling point for SummerSlam this year in Cleveland, in my opinion, is Drew McIntyre versus CM Punk. The match has not been made official yet. I'm sure, give it time. We have several weeks. They could probably announce it in days. But that's the big match for SummerSlam this year. Now, coming out of this match, a little added wrinkle into what this match could end up being. First of all, Priest is still champion. He's still with the Judgment Day. There's still problems within the Judgment Day. They had a backstage segment, and there was a little bit of foreshadowing, once again, with Finn Balor, so we'll see how that plays out. But now Priest is champion, and it will officially be him and the King of the Ring winner, Gunther, tearing it up for the world title at SummerSlam. No doubt in my mind, Gunther is winning that championship. If Gunther does not win at SummerSlam, then just wait 3 weeks and he's probably going to win it at Bash in Berlin. But I'm fairly certain he's going to beat Priest for it at SummerSlam. And I think that is where we will see an implosion within the Judgment Day that will backfire on Priest and will lead to Gunther winning the title. So, there's that. But there was a very unique added element to the CM Punk Drew McIntyre stuff at the end of this match, as Punk is still out there. He's sitting cross-legged on the announce table as Priest is winning. Seth Rollins comes over and he is pissed at CM Punk. Now you rewind all the way back to last year when Punk initially returned to the company. Who was the main antagonist against him? Before this stuff with Drew McIntyre and the whole I prayed for this and the troll job and all that stuff happened, who was the main foil against CM Punk that they were building up to? It was Seth Rollins. They even announced it in that WrestleMania documentary on YouTube. They flat out admitted that the plan for WrestleMania this year was Seth Rollins versus CM Punk before all the injuries took place. So now we're kind of setting that back up. And with Seth being as angry at CM Punk as he was following this match, he even had to be held back by Corey Graves, who got off the commentary desk to help hold him back. So as pissed off as he was here, you have to imagine that he'll play some kind of role in the SummerSlam match between Drew McIntyre and CM Punk. I'm thinking we might get... Now, they could do a triple threat match, which would be a great match. I don't think that's the match to do for SummerSlam. I think Seth has every right to be involved in some way because he has been. He has history with him and McIntyre. There's history with him and CM Punk. But it's not so much that he needs to be added to the match. This match needs to be CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre. These past several months, the entire focus of this story has been on the two of them, one-on-one. That is what it should be at SummerSlam. I say Seth Rollins should be either the special guest referee or the special guest ringside enforcer. Now, they brought him back. It would be crazy to not have one of your top attractions on the show be in an actual match at SummerSlam. Could they slide him into the world title stuff and make that a triple threat? Sure. I don't see that happening, though. I think that interaction between him and CM Punk was indicative that this is going to lead to something with him being involved in the Punk McIntyre stuff. And the only thing that I really have any interest in seeing as far as that's concerned for SummerSlam is for Seth Rollins to be either the special ref or the special outside ring enforcer and serve that role, which will be a fine role. And it's not unfamiliar that at SummerSlam, one of the top stars is in a position where he's not wrestling on the show, but he's a special referee. You've seen Triple H do that a few times. Shawn Michaels famously did that in 1997 in the main event with The Undertaker and Bret Hart on that show. So I could see that happening here. And I think that would be a nice wrinkle added to that match. So that is my thoughts as far as that is concerned. And I want to talk about a few other things here. Later on this particular night, they aired the post-show media scrum, press conference, whatever. And first of all, I want to give them kudos to this because it was very sports-like, very serious. They showed footage of people leaving the arena. They get comments from different people with the headsets and all that stuff. Very cool. Very, very nice touch. During this pre-show here, McIntyre at one point hijacked the desk. He's calling out CM Punk. He's pushing away referees who are trying to stop him. Raw General Manager Adam Pearce is over there. He's trying to stop him. McIntyre elbows him in the face. And this pisses off Pierce, who's trying to get at McIntyre, and it takes Wade Barrett getting involved to hold McIntyre off and prevent anyone from going to blows here. So I thought that was cool. And this is clearly setting up the match announcement. If it doesn't happen as the pre-show is still on the air, the pre-show, as I'm speaking right now, the pre-show, the post-show, I should say, is still airing because John Cena went long. We'll get to him later. But I'm sure the announcement will come very soon. But I also want to get into the idea of the Money in the Bank briefcase being wasted this year, which there was a lot of discourse going on about that heading into this show with this idea of what they were going to do with McIntyre. It was very obvious that they were going to go this route with McIntyre, and they did it. And many people were against it, and many people are even more against it now coming out of the show. You see a lot of people online, many of you who are probably listening to this, probably are also very upset that WWE essentially wasted the briefcase this year. Drew McIntyre, someone who is a multi-time world champion, guaranteed main eventer for life, is currently in the middle of a program with CM Punk, which did not necessarily need this. They already did the stuff at WrestleMania. They did the stuff at Clash at the Castle. They did the stuff on SmackDown in Chicago. It didn't need to have this extra element of the briefcase. I get that, and I understand that. People take Money in the Bank very seriously, and they look at it as a way to elevate new people, and putting the briefcase on guys on the cusp of that main event scene and giving them something to work with. You see what it did for Damian Priest. It's done that kind of stuff for Seth Rollins in the past, Edge, so many different examples of that being done for people. So I get not wanting to see the briefcase wasted this way just to further push a storyline that really did not need this extra boost to get people hyped up for it. I get it. Me personally, just speaking on my behalf, I don't mind it only because, one, I liked the direction that they were going to go with it. I like that this is extra fuel to the fire that is CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. It is boiling over. This is a blood feud. This is the top feud on Monday Night Raw currently. And adding a little extra heat to it, I didn't have a problem with that. More so than that, I personally am kind of over the Money in the Bank concept. You know, the ladder matches, they can be fun, and it kills some TV time for a few weeks with all the qualifying matches, and it gets a bunch of people onto the pay-per-view. You get 6 guys who otherwise probably would not be on the pay-per-view at all. You get them in there. And it would have been nice to see Jey Uso win. It would have been nice to see them give the rub to Carmelo Hayes. It would have been cool to see them give it to Chad Gable, who has been going through some bullshit on TV over the past several months. Even though he has been a consistent player on TV, he is by no means buried. But it would have been cool to see him get the briefcase and get a little reward for all the work he's been doing. And seeing him run with it and pushing that story of wherever they wanted to go with that. I get it. I get that frustration. But for me, the concept of Money in the Bank and the cash-ins, I personally, and I might be in the minority here, although I know there's some people who do agree with me out there. I just feel like we're in the minority on it. I'm kind of over it. I just feel like it's very outdated. It's been overdone. They've done it every single year. And now they double it because there's a man and a woman who wins the briefcase. And it's just, I don't really get overly excited for it. It's a crutch. It's always been a crutch, no doubt. But I just feel like it is so heavily relied on as an easy out crutch to give people a championship. Now, it still gets a reaction. Every time someone holds that briefcase for a long period of time, and you get these championship matches and their music plays, these fans go crazy because they know something big is about to happen. They know that, look at WrestleMania this year. That got a huge reaction because people were invested in Priest as the Money in the Bank holder. They knew what that meant. The same thing for Io Sky last year. It's so many moments. I'm not going to go through all of them. But I don't know. I personally didn't have a problem with it, especially because I knew that if they did it with the men's, at the very least, the women's Money in the Bank winner would probably get to hold on to it for a very long time, or at least longer than the men's, and they would get the shine. They would get the focus placed on them, and they would be the Money in the Bank holder going forward, flashing the briefcase around, teasing whether they're going to cash in or not. I don't necessarily need to see it on 2 different shows or with 2 different people. You can have one person do it. I don't mind. And speaking of which, we have a Miss Money in the Bank coming out of this show. That being Tiffany Stratton, who overcame Naomi, Io Sky, Lyra Valkyria, Zoe Stark, and Chelsea Green, who was wildly popular here in Canada. But Tiffany Stratton was too. In fact, her and Chelsea were the 2 most over women in this entire match. This match, it's hard to describe it because there were so many spots in this match that were ugly. There were many botches. There were many mistakes. There were many rough spots in this match. A good chunk of this match was rough and it was ugly. But good God, I really had a fun time watching this match. I was very similar to Michael Cole, who had a lot of glowing things to say about this match on commentary, him and Corey Graves both. And even the crowd were giving these women just all the flowers in the world, which they deserved. All 6 of these ladies killed it. They killed themselves out there in this match. It was insane. I can't go into every single thing in this match. Just some things that come off the top of my head were involving people like Zoe Stark and Io Sky, who, oh my God, that spot off of the ladder where Io basically hit a tombstone pile driver on Zoe Stark and slammed her down onto a ladder bridge. The landing that Zoe Stark had, plus the way that Io sold it and she folded herself back from it. One of the best sell jobs I've ever seen from a move in a ladder match ever. It was great. And I thought the finish was also extremely clever. It came down to Tiffany Stratton and Chelsea Green. Earlier in the match, the 2 of them together set up 2 tables on the floor outside. And they walked away from it. There was never a mention of it ever again. And so you get to this last part of this match as Chelsea Green, the fans are going crazy for her to win and pull down that briefcase. And she's overcoming her own little mini story of overcoming her fear of heights in order to win this match. So she's climbing the ladder. She's about to pull down that briefcase. Then it's Tiffany Stratton who climbs up on a separate ladder and tips over Chelsea's ladder. And Chelsea falls over out of the ring, down, crashing through those very tables that her and Tiffany together set up all those minutes ago earlier in the match, and Tiffany Stratton pulled down the briefcase and won it. I thought it was great. I thought, as rough and ugly as this match was, I thought that added something to it. I don't know. I can't really shit on it. I can shit on some of the botches on this show. I talked about the stuff in the world title match. I forgot to mention in the 6-man tag, Tangaloa, who was not in the match. He was outside. At one point, he botched a low blow spot with him and Kevin Owens. It looked bad. It looked so bad. And unfortunately, this is not the first time we've seen Tangaloa botch stuff since coming back to WWE. He wasn't overly special in New Japan either, so, it is what it is. So there's a lot of botches on this show, which you're going to expect, especially in these ladder matches. You're going to expect some botches and some shaky things, but I don't know. For this particular match with the women, I thought it added to it. I thought it made it look more like a fight. Like these women, even if it looked sloppy at points, even if it looked brutal, it added to it. And then once the stuff started kicking in that looked really good, it really added something to it. And this was by far, for me, the best match of the night. It was the better of the 2 ladder matches. And while I can't call it the best Money in the Bank ladder match of all time, I can put it high on that list, and I can definitely put it as a solid number 1 on the list of the best women's Money in the Bank ladder matches. So great stuff there. And then also the last match, which unfortunately coming out of this show feels like a complete afterthought, but Sami Zayn and Braun Breaker fought for the Intercontinental Championship in what I thought was a damn good match. In fact, I would argue that this was Braun Breaker's best match since coming up to the main roster. I thought Sami gave him everything in this match to make him look like a legit contender and like a legit threat to his title. I thought Sami played his role well, and Bron Breakker did everything in his power to look as strong as possible. But in the end, Sami Zayn won. Only thing that shocked me about Sami winning is that he basically won clean. It wasn't a slip on a banana peel type thing. It wasn't a fluke victory. It was basically him blocking a spear with a kick, and he hit the haluva kick of his own and got the win. So I figured Sami was going to win on this show because I didn't think they would belt Bron that quickly. And again, I see some discourse on this. People were thinking like, oh, this was a terrible booking decision. They're stupid. They just buried Bron Breakker. They should have just had him win. Sure, they could have done that. They could have just strapped the rocket to Bron and just have him go out there and pummel Sami Zayn and win. Sure. I think this was a fine decision, and you can hold off on the win till SummerSlam in a rematch with Sami, or make it a multi-man match and include some other names in there. I think the time to belt Bron Breakker will come very soon. I just didn't expect it on this show. Now, could they have made it a little bit more of a fluke victory to protect Bron a little bit more? Maybe, but I don't think he was really hurt by this outcome. At least not personally, but it is what it is. I thought this was a really good match, and the best performance of Bron Breakker's career so far on the main roster. Now, with all the matches out of the way, one of the biggest segments and one of the biggest talking points coming out of this show was John Cena. He was introduced by Trish Stratus, of course, Toronto native. She was the host of the show. John Cena came out and he announced that he is soon retiring from in-ring competition. And he was talking about why now and why is he making this decision to say it in Canada, and he was praising the Canadian fans and giving them some love and giving love to all the fans and all that. But the biggest talking points here is that this is essentially going to be a retirement tour for John Cena. Now, here live on the show during this PLE, he announced that next year, in 2025, the Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, and WrestleMania 41 are going to be his last of those three events. It will be his final Royal Rumble. It will be his final Elimination Chamber, and it will be his final WrestleMania. And that is kind of where he left things. And then he thanked the fans, and they thanked him as well. He has a new shirt that shows the last time is now, and he repeated that statement. So that was that. And it was a great segment. The fans were firmly into it. Of course, they don't want to see the guy retire, but they gave him the respect and the love and admiration that John Cena deserves. Now, I'm not going to really go too deep into this particular segment because I feel like there was more clarity coming out of John Cena appearing on the post show during the press conference, which I mentioned earlier. He went way over time, which was fine. He got to answer a few questions, some kind of lame, some a little cringe, but he was game for it all. But he did provide a little bit more clarity as far as what he means by his retirement tour and all these last shows that he's going to be in next year. So when he says, for example, that WrestleMania will be his last WrestleMania, he clarified here during the post show, and hopefully I am interpreting this correctly with what he said. I didn't jot down exactly word for word everything that he said, but hopefully I'm interpreting it correctly, that WrestleMania will be his last WrestleMania, but it's not going to be his last match. The Rumble, that's his last Rumble, but that's not his last match. Particularly WrestleMania, because that's where he kind of ended his talking point in the ring when talking about this earlier on in the show. But here during the post show, he was clarifying that WrestleMania is not going to be his last match. It's just going to be his last time wrestling at WrestleMania. He revealed that there is a plan in place for about 30 to 40 dates throughout the year of 2025. So he's going to be around. He's going to compete next year. Now, a question that I had also is, why are they waiting until 2025 for this to start? And he didn't outright answer it, I don't think, but he did reveal that he is currently in the middle of filming season 2 of his show Peacemaker. So I assume that plus any other upcoming projects that he may have for the rest of this year, that is why they're holding off on it until 2025. But he's going to be competing throughout the year. He mentioned later on about the possibility of Money in the Bank. There's always SummerSlam, Survivor Series, all these different things. But these 30 to 40 dates span between January 2025 to December 2025. So even if his last WrestleMania match is earlier in the year in April, he might not have his final match ever until December. So that's kind of what he was clarifying here, which I'm glad he did, because that cleared things up as far as my mindset on how to handle this retirement tour. Now, I'm not going to go through every single thing. Okay, he needs to wrestle this person, that person, do all this and that. That's not what I'm going to do. I, real quick, am going to give John Cena his flowers and give him his respect because he deserves it. He is easily one of the greatest of all time. I won't call him the greatest, but he is up there. He ranks very high. He was an extremely important factor in the growth of this company during a time period where business was not as strong, where the ratings were not as high, and the overall perception of WWE was not extremely good, in part because he was the guy on top. But even still, throughout all of that, he had his head held up high, and he carried that WWE banner with pride and honor and respect, and I give all that same respect back to him for it. And I thought that he did a great job of carrying the brand of WWE for so many years. And it's crazy because there was at least one period of time where I was begging for this guy to take a break, to go away, to get off TV for a little bit. Not to completely disappear, but he was just so overexposed. I was begging for a period where he could just go away. And now that he has essentially slipped away into deep part-time tenure, it is a little melancholy. And it's a little sad to see him officially hang up the boots and the jorts. He even made it official that once he is done, he is done. And that was another thing about this, because you hear a lot of wrestlers talk about they're going to retire, and they even go on a little retirement tour, but then something brings them back. And other guys we see, they come back and they make special appearances. They're a guest referee. They do this and that. Cena here, now, of course, he could be just like all of them, and his mind might change, but he sounded quite declarative here that when he's done, he is done. He's not going to put on the jorts. He's not going to put on the t-shirts. He's not going to make a special appearance here and there to go through a table or be a guest cameo in the Rumble or be a special referee or be the GM on TV or anything like that. He sounded like once he is done in the ring, he is done. Now, he will continue to have a relationship with WWE to some degree. I took that to mean he'll have some kind of Legends contract like so many others do, which will be cool for him. But, yeah. But I will say, as far as final opponents, final WrestleMania, all this stuff, it would be a missed opportunity to not build up the Rumble next year around John Cena wanting to win the Rumble to earn another shot at the world title and go after world title number 17 at WrestleMania. That's a hard story to pass up. Even more so, it's hard to pass up the idea of him actually doing it, of him actually going on to win the Royal Rumble or win the Elimination Chamber. Either way, to get a world title shot at WrestleMania. And even further than that, having him actually do it. Now, I don't get the impression that John Cena gives a single crap about actually winning his 17th title. If anything, he might actually not want to do that. But I could see Triple H having a ton of respect for John Cena and everything that he has meant to this company and wanting to have him go out with a bang and give him a moment like that. You have 2 world titles, and you have 2 nights of WrestleMania. You could easily end night 1 with him challenging for a championship. Then the question becomes, which champion would that be? Could it be Cody Rhodes? Especially if they go in the direction of Rock and Roman at WrestleMania next year, that would eliminate Rock and Cody at WrestleMania. That would free up Cody. And unless they're going to hold off on Cody and Randy all the way until WrestleMania, a good choice for Cody might be a match between him and John Cena. And we know that Cody has wanted this match. He has teased wanting this match with John Cena, and it would be a strong passing of the torch kind of moment for Cody if he were to win. You could also have him challenge for a championship on Raw. Maybe Gunther is world champion by that point, who knows, or someone else. And maybe a championship match at WrestleMania is not in his future. I already saw up and down my timeline, the graphics are already being made. People are clamoring for a match between John Cena and Randy Orton. Speaking of overdone, their matches were so overdone. It was overkill with the number of matches that they had, with the quality never really going too far up or too far down, just basically staying the exact same all throughout their feud. But it is crazy to think that throughout all of the matches that they had, the hundreds of matches that they had, never once did they have a single one-on-one match at WrestleMania. That'd be kind of cool to see. Even all these years later, it's been years since we've seen these two go one-on-one in the ring. So with that much time passed, even I would not be opposed to seeing a John Cena-Randy Orton match at WrestleMania. Or just having John Cena or having Randy Orton be John Cena's final match at WrestleMania. And during the pay-per-view, I was thinking that next year will be the perfect time to induct Cena into the Hall of Fame, to tie it in with WrestleMania and all that. But since he made the clarification during the post-show that he is going to still compete throughout the rest of the year, I think it would make more sense for him to be the lead Hall of Fame inductee for 2026. That way, once his career is over by the end of next year, he can immediately head into the Hall of Fame in 2026. Or they can hold off on him because he's clearly going to still be around, even beyond retirement to some degree. So there's no rush to get him in there, but it'd be kind of cool for him to get that moment too. But that is all that I really have to say as far as that's concerned, and that's all I have to say about this show. This was a very long review, but there was a lot that happened. This was a very newsworthy show. So much shit happened on this show, and like I said, I enjoyed it. I don't hate WWE for doing what they did with the Money in the Bank briefcase. I thought it worked out just fine. I'm hyped for SummerSlam. I think we're going to get a good show at SummerSlam this year. And whether you agree with me or disagree with me, I want to hear your thoughts as well. Leave a comment down below. Hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel. And follow me on Twitter/X at DerekJ Speaks. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate you. Love you. Take care.